Okay, this is part 2 of the any percent novice guide for Colin McRae Rally 2. Or more specifically, the any percent guide for beginners or new players of the speedrunning circle who want to give this category a go. So, I've already done part 1. There should be a link to that either on my Twitch channel, you can find it on my Twitch, or it should be above this, wherever this is. There should be a link alongside this. It should have been posted as 2 parts. But either way, this is obviously the next part, and this is going to be covering rallies 5 to 8, which is the second half of the championship, which is Australia, Kenya, Italy, and the UK. Now, as I mentioned in the first part, this game has some weather RNG, so you don't know what you're going to get. It has dynamic weather and it changes pretty much all the time. As you can see, we've literally just finished Sweden in the last part. So, let's move on to Australia. Now, Australia has a bit of a mixture. For the most part, it's sunny. It doesn't rain very often. And if you do get rain, it's it's very unlucky, basically. There isn't many major cuts that you can do. However, it's worth noting, the car you can keep by default if you wish. Now, on a stage like stage 2, however, you can see we're going to need quite a bit of speed. So, for the purposes of this rally, we're going to keep the gearbox the same, the tyres the same by default, everything's by default. So, moving into stage 1, it's a relatively, I'd say, an interesting stage. It's not exciting, it's not boring. But it can be tricky. First of all, you'll notice the fences. They're very thin, so it's quite hard to spot them. You'll find at first it's very hard to notice where the limits are for this track. Particularly at that corner there, as I just went past, you can actually run wide quite easily and whack into the white concrete stubs. So you want to be careful. As you go over this hill, you must apply your brakes, otherwise you'll fly off into the trees and the bushes, as mentioned. Going through sector 2, most of this is just being careful to not go off the beaten path. There's no major shortcuts here to use, not that I could recommend anyway. Now, it's ideal that you stay on this trail that I'm on, because that is obviously the stage itself. And if you go off it, you can lose time and grip as well. So make sure you don't run very wide. There's a lot of trees, so it's quite easy for your car to get damaged. Maybe apply the brakes a tad there, just so that you don't get caught up. As you can see, I ran wide quite to the trees. This hairpin, again, as mentioned, braking distances are always a factor with games like this, so make sure you brake a fair bit before. Again, like this hairpin as well, second gear. You want to kind of brake and turn at the same time, put down to third gear here, or second gear if you wish. I usually stay in third gear because it's not too bad. Full throttle across the hill, brakes as soon as you jump or as soon as you finish landing. You can apply your brakes as you're in the air. You are allowed to do that in this game, so if you want to do that, that'll slow your car down in mid-air, which means that you won't be carrying as much speed when you hit the ground. But make sure you've got your brakes the moment you hit the ground. That way you'll definitely hit the speed. Try not to hold your brakes for too much either. Otherwise, when you hit that floor, you're off. You know, you're going to start sliding, and the last thing you want to do is, you don't want to be sliding into anything major here. For the most part though, just following the course left and right. This can be a bit complicated here, so make sure, again, dab with the brakes. Brakes don't hurt you. You know, they're more or less your friend in this game. I mean, as a new player, I used to use brakes all the time from those corners. Minor corners used to go flat out like that for. As you can see, slow down here. There's actually a cut here on the left hand side. So as you go over here, there is these little trees here. You want to be careful of the little trees. And that is the finish there. So on a run, you can get like an early 240 or a 230. Yeah, like an early 240 or a late 230 roughly. If you're really good, then a mid to early 230 is quite a good time to get. As you can tell from my personal best. But as mentioned before, you can have different times and things like that. But for me personally, for a new player, if you want to aim for a good time, under 3 minutes I'd say would definitely be your ideal goal for this stage, because it's not too slow, so the AI can beat you later on. And obviously the more time you gain on the AI, the better. You don't want to be going too far and, you know, messing things up. Which brings us nicely onto stage 2. Now stage 2 is a relatively quick stage. As mentioned, Australia has a lot of trees, so in stage 1 it is easy to damage your car. I've actually been a bit of a culprit of damaging my car in stage 1. Be careful with that tree on the inside. Again, you've got a few jumps here. Notice how I applied the brakes slightly after I've jumped. For this one I knew that there was going to be some. There's obviously these corners here. As they go up and down, you'll gain momentum, lose momentum, gain it again, so you do want to be careful. And obviously the back end of your car can slide out and cause trouble, as per usual. Hairpin here. Do not go straight on, make sure you go right at the rock face, because if you don't, well, let's be honest, there's a dead end at the end of that. So you do not want to be going there. You can see I nearly spun my car out there. Be careful of the rock face on the right side there, on the left hand side. Also, if you wish, apply the brakes going across the train track so you get across safely. Again, the less damage you take with the car, the better it's going to be in the long run. As we go down this main straight here, there is a minor cut, so watch very closely. As you go up this hill on the right hand side, there is this pile here. You go across this pile. If you want to, you can go at full speed. From here, you want to be dodging right or left. So as you can see, I run right and left again. It's probably recommended for new time players to apply the brakes there, as well as here as well. Be very careful as you go around the corner. You will have the rock face again and the fence on this, between the rock and the face. The rock face and the fence on that one. Again, the rocks are always a pain. Do not try and cut that corner, because them rocks you just saw on the left hand side, they will flip you and screw your car up big time. So you got that hairpin there, not too bad, nice and easy. Let's go straight here. You can do a beeline and try and go over here if you wish. Ideally, a cut that we try and use is you can go across there like that. And if you wish, you can also try and cut behind the rocks here. But in my personal case, I would say don't try and do that. Again, brake after you go above that jump, because if you don't, then you're going to end up hitting the rocks on the outside, and you don't want to be doing that, because as mentioned, the rocks are very tough. They're tough. They won't budge. They don't budge. They're not. The physics in this game are old, so of course the stones aren't going to budge. Your car's going to get really smashed up and really wrecked. And the last thing we'll be doing is wrecking the car. So, as said, a 2:19 for me isn't too bad. I've got like 2:12s, 2:13s. That's my usual times. But for a new beginner, a 2:30 would be a really good time to aim for. If you're getting like a 2:35, don't fret, because that's still a decent time. But if you can get it under or close to a 2:30, then that is ideally a much better time, and a time for the top 5, I'd say, overall. So, bear that in mind. Like I said, if you really want to go for world record, 2:13, 2:12, what I'm doing, pretty much, and what Lucky's doing, those are the times you want to be going for. If you're going for world record, that is. But for new players, which this guy is mainly meant for, you ideally want to go for like a 2:30 or 2:35-ish as your aim for this stage. Again, practice makes perfect. I will keep saying this, because nothing is more important than practice. Any speedrun, is important. Practice for any speedrun is important. And racing games are no different. If you don't do any practice for this, chances are you're going to mess the car up. You'll wreck it. You'll get really badly damaged. It is pretty obvious, but again, try and do a couple. I'd recommend do a couple of offline runs before you attempt the full thing. If it's your first time you're going straight out blind, don't go flying into corners. Use your brakes. You've got them for a reason. And obviously keep an eye on the back end of that car, because your car will slide out. You've got you've got problems after jumps. Your car can keep the momentum going over jumps. Quite a fair bit, as we saw in that one. So again, just be careful. And if you are going to use shortcuts, make sure you practice them beforehand. Don't go flying into one thinking you can make the corner. Maybe do a couple of few practices of the cuts before you actually use them in the run. That's what I recommend. Don't just think, right, that's a new cut or one that you've never used before, I'm going to use that, and then screw it up in the run. You lose loads of time because of it. You want to be trying to go a bit quicker each run. So when you've done enough practice, if you do a run, right, okay, you've got your first run done, you go back to go and improve it. Okay, that's your second run. You're going to start improving it. You're going to improve your times. You're going to move up the leaderboard, or you're going to, you're going to move up the leaderboard. You'll improve your times. Blah blah blah. Now, it's easier said than done to screw up a run, especially this game. For me personally, if you have a lack of concentration, you can easily go off the road. You can wreck the car, and that can lose you a lot of time in the long run. So, again, it's all about taking risks and getting rewards. But for me, I take the risks and I know the rewards, but I practice said risks so I get it right near enough every time I do it, or at least 95%. If you're 50% sure, don't go for it. 95% sure, now you're talking. That's me. Anyway, we'll get a bit more into that later on. But anyway, Australia, stages 3 and 4, rather self-explanatory. For this, there's not many shortcuts to use, but again, I will be mentioning the ones that I use, and also the ones that Lucky has also shown me. So, again, not all these cuts were found by myself, they were found by Lucky, myself, or from the Franzowski, I believe there was a guy called. He originally found a couple of these cuts, so big thanks to those guys. So straight away at the start here, we have this right left-hander, which can easily throw you into the trees if you're not careful. This right-hander here gets very tight. It's not that tight, but tight enough to make sure you're going over and you're going to hit something basically, so you have to be careful. This one's probably about preserving the car the most, because I personally think wrecking the car on this stage is very easy to do. I mean, number of times the car sliding out isn't a good sign, but again, it can't be helped. It's just the way the game's made and how the physics are. So for the most part here, as you can see, I'm using 6k at the moment, slowing down when I need to. You can easily slide wide into the trees there, so be careful of that one. Again, if you can, try and keep close to the trees, but not too close. Know your limits is what I say. If you get in close and you know you're getting close, don't try and get within, a millimetre of a tree, because the collision detect boxes for some trees are very weird. As you can tell already, we're getting quite far already through this stage. You take a right here, because if you go left, you can actually hit. It's a dead end on the left hand side, so be wary of that. The game likes to throw you off in that regard. As you can see, a few tight corners, dab with the brakes, change down a gear. This is how I usually drive anyway, just a bit quicker. As you can see, the car slides out, I catch it, I bring it back. Now you're thinking, on the left hand side where them panels are, you think there'd be a cut there, but there actually isn't. I've actually tried to see if there's a way of cutting through the grass, but the grass is actually concrete, it's a solid barrier, so you can't even get through. So you've unfortunately got to do the hairpin. With those two jumps, you want to try and ideally let your foot off the gas beforehand, and also make sure with how the car goes. And the final cut, you cut between the left and side of that tree, go straight, and what I usually do is do a dab of the brakes, and as I go to the end of that stage, I actually have to rather than just thread the needle and go straight and then left, I try and go left towards the finish line. But obviously, knowing where I believe it or not, I even get mixed up on that route, like which way is quickest and try and get through the quickest. It can gain you quite a bit of time near the end if you go through it quite quickly, or reasonably quick. So our overall time there was a 2:31, which wasn't bad, and you can see the AI is a 3:06, so it's pathetic AI. Ideally, a 2:45 to 2:50 would be a good time for a newbie or new player. We'll go with like a new player. 2:45 to 2:50. with cuts as well. Without cuts, probably 3 minutes, but with cuts, 245 to 250, ideally. Which brings us nicely onto stage 4, and this is the last stage of stage 4. Now, regarding cuts and things like that, there really isn't much to mention on this one. You can take 1 or 2 shortcuts to make the stage faster, but I guarantee it's not nearly as fast. The main one for this, as I take this minor cut here, is just all about being quick, really. Taking as much speed as you can through the corners and being, like I said, just being quick. It's one of those stages where there's no cuts, so being quick is the main moral. It's as quick as you can get. Again, make sure the car doesn't snap out, doesn't give you a load of oversteer and a load of grief. You have this tarmac bit here which can actually cause your car to slide out. Now bear in mind, we are on gravel tyres. Again, cut through the fence on the left hand side there. This little hill on the left hand side there can throw you off, funnily enough. But again, that fence, as mentioned, you can easily miss it and go straight. I actually did that a few times when I first used to play this game. So, don't forget about taking risks. Over that corner you want to try and change gear as you go through it into 6th gear. If you're not going too fast, don't worry. Try and keep it steered to the right as much as possible. Also, with the lake, going over the lake, you have to be careful because there was a tree just before. I don't know if you saw. Feel free to rewind the video if you missed it, but there's a tree on the left hand side, which you must avoid, because otherwise, if you don't, you'll wreck the car, and I won't say completely wreck it, but you can cause quite a bit of damage to your car. Believe me, I've been there, I've hit that. I'm not immune to these sort of mistakes. As much as this bit throws you off, just stick to the left hand side there. Again, try not to take too much speed through here. You want to shift down a gear or brake a little bit there. Going over this hill, this is where it gets a bit more difficult. So you want to brake way before the top of that hill, because otherwise you'll go straight on. Same with that hill as well. You can go over the hill, make sure you brake before you get on. If you go flying over it, you'll just go flying into the trees and things like that. Same with this as well. You can actually get the hill to bounce off. So you'll have the hill and you'll bounce off it, and there you go. You can get put back on the right track. Definitely apply brakes for them 2 corners, because otherwise you're not going to have a good time. That's for damn sure. You will not have a fun time whatsoever. With this stage at all. Like I said, for the most part, it's all about being quick, doing what you got to do, and just being fast all around. It's nothing more than that. It's literally just that. And as we go around the end, again, maybe just apply the dab of the brakes, going around that last corner, and across the finish. That was a 3:02, which wasn't too bad. Now, the best times are usually anything that's like under 3 minutes is pretty good. But for a new player, who's not done it before, probably anything under a 3:20. So 3:20 to 3:25 mark. That is ideally what you're aiming for. Anything below that, so anything that's under 3:20 is getting better, you're getting there. But ideally, a new player or a newbie will be aiming for like a 3:20 or a 3:20, anything under 3:25, but around the 3:20 mark. And that is everything. As you can see, for our total rally time is a 10:41. You ideally probably want to try and get it under 12 minutes, which is way slower than that. If you get it under 12 minutes, that's quite good. Ideally under 11. And if you're ballsy enough, and if you've really got the stamina, and you've really got the drive in you, and you really want to go for a record pace, try and get it near under 10 minutes. It's quite difficult, but believe me, when you pull it off, wow, it works. I think it's around the early 10-minute mark, so within like 10:12 or 10:13, I think, usually is a good time for a record pace. Maybe under 10, I can't quite remember. But that is Australia done. As you can see, we've got quite a bit of a leading championship. Again, I presume if you're following all this, you'll quickly get it. So, Rally 6, Kenya. Immediately, I can tell you straight off the bat, This rally is going to be one of the quickest ones you do, aside from Finland. Finland you thought was quite quick, 7.5 minutes, 8 minutes. This is quick because I think it's the second quickest out of all the rallies. Like there's Finland, and I believe this is next on the list of how quick it is. Or this is quicker than Finland. I can't remember which one was which, but straight off the bat, I can just say, like I said, it's very quick. The weather is usually sunny. If you get rain, it's very unfortunate, but you rarely get anybody that has rain for Kenya, especially for Novice. You rarely get it. It can happen, but it's usually in the intermediate or the expert championships when you get rain. But obviously, we're doing Novice, so we don't really need to worry about rain for the most part. But what I can tell you is stage 2 is practically flat out, as much as it looks a bit bumpy and everything. It is quite flat out, which is why for this rally we actually change our gearbox up a notch towards the long. We don't put it right long because then it would be too slow, and we still need the acceleration and things getting out of corners. We keep the suspension, the power ratio, the tyres, the brakes, the steering, everything else basically what the game gives you originally. It's just the gearbox we change up a notch. So again, just to clarify, that's the default setting. You change it one to the right, so it's like that, and that's it. Obviously, don't need to repair it, and in we get to stage 1. So, Kenya only has one minor cut in this very first stage, and the reason for why we have the long gear ratio is because there is quite a few straights in Kenya, and believe me, speed is definitely key. Now, as you can see, I'm practically doing all this flat out. Feel free to use your brakes. I'm not expecting people to be as quick as this. So brakes definitely, again, another rally where brakes are easily your friend. Don't be scared to use the brakes. Brakes are here to help you, not to... Alright, they're here to slow you down, but help you get through corners. If you can, try and take that corner flat out. If you can. For the most part, with most of Kenya, you're going to be going round square lefts and square rights. So this very first stage, you'll be going left to right, to left again, back to right. There's a lot of the left and right action. In particular, this hairpin here in the right-hand corner. I'm not a fan of those corners at all. Let me tell you that for nothing. Again, as you can tell, left, right, it just keeps doing it for the most part. You get a bit of acceleration down the straight before braking into the right hand corner. We've got another square left here. Now, after this square left down at the bottom, we're going to be entering the final few sectors of this stage. And this is where one of the cuts for this stage comes in. Now, it's only the one, the only cut for this stage. So as you go around this corner here, you want to aim to the left and clip up here. Now, ideally, you don't want to aim at high speed there because the car can get flung around like a ragdoll. And what you want to do is climb up onto that and go straight across. You want to basically just beeline straight in front of you, and you'll jump back on the track down here. Again, be cautious when you're sliding onto the tarmac because you can go sliding straight off again. Don't forget, we don't have tarmac tyres on this car. And if you can, just keep your foot flat to the floor across the finish line for a 2:05.86. Now, as mentioned, 2:05.86, not a bad time, pretty decent for a new player, a newbie time. You're ideally looking at a under 2:20, so a 2:15 or between 2:15 to 2:20. That's roughly what stage 1 time you want to go with. Again, if you want to go for world record pace, a 2:02, or if you want to go a bit that one step further, under 2 minutes. But for now, 2:02, 2:03, that's like the world record time. For like mine, that was a 2:05. That was only 2 seconds off my record, and I'm pretty happy with that. Like I said, for a new player, I'm not expecting to match that. 2:15 to 2:20, that's a pretty good time to have, because you're a fair few seconds ahead of the AI still. Which brings us nicely onto stage 2. Again, I mentioned this is flat out, so this is all about how much nerve you've got. Now, feel free to use your brakes if you need to do that, because the brakes, again, will come in handy. Like, when don't they come in handy in the racing game? Most of these hills are quite blind, so unless you practice the stage before, the one that will probably throw you off, I usually used to slow down quite a bit for that corner, going left because of the fact that my car would often slide right and we'd often get, crisis going. You can actually, if you brake before that corner because of the fact that too far to the right, you guessed it, you'll hit that sign and the car will flip over. From here you can kind of beeline it, but again, it's all about how many nerves you've got. There is that blind right hand corner which you just saw, that's how we got there. Again, all these hills are pretty much blind. I know where I'm going, but the next one is a left hand turn, I believe. And then a right hand turn. Ideally for this, you want to keep an eye on which way the hillside is starting to go. So if you notice it's starting to go left, start steering to the left. If it starts going right, steer to the right hand side. You want to dab a bit to the right on this one. Not too much. I'm just going to change down the gear for speed efficiency. And then back to the left hand side again. Now after you hit this split here for 6, you want to put the brakes on here. Aim for your left hand side and go up. And you ideally want to aim for the middle of that hill. So, because otherwise what can happen is, I've had it a few times where if I aim too far to the left, I've been pushed to the right. If I aim for the right, I near enough get caught on the rocks or hit the rocks. So ideally, if you're in the middle, you're practically safe. You're fine. You're not going to hit anything or lose too much speed. And as you can tell, as you can see, coming over the hill and across the line to do a 1:59.96, so just short of 2 minutes. Now, for me personally, I reckon a newbie could get under 2 minutes, but they'd have to really know the track inside and out. Personally for me, the air I did a 2:26, so a 2:10 to 2:15 would be a good time for a newbie. Maybe a 2:20, I go as far as saying a 2:20. Anything after 2:20 will definitely be improved. To get under, try and get it under 2:20 and if possible under 2:15. So I think for this stage, between 2:15 to 2:20, and if you can really manage it, around a 2:10 to 2:15 mark. World record pace is like a 1:55, 1:54, I think. So well under 2 minutes really. But again, this is completely up to yourself. As we move into the service area, we've got stages 3 and 4. Now stage 3, like Finland stage 3, which I covered in part 1, this is quite a quick stage, and there's no shortcuts, nothing. It's just all about the driving and trying to get used to your car and move the car around the corners, try not to let it slide out too much and all the rest of it. Stage 4 is a repeat of stage 1. So the cuts that I used in stage 1, I'm going to use in stage 4. But because I'm using them backwards, it's harder to find, to see the cuts and things like that. It will be because obviously the stage is in reverse. You don't know where you're going and things like that. But obviously we're going like left, right. Because we're going backwards, we're going right, left. So, the opposite direction. Anyway. Let's get into stage 3. Again, you don't need to change setup, don't need to repair your car. Unless it's really badly damaged, then repair the car. Again, as mentioned, don't worry about any shortcuts on this stage because there isn't any. It's blatantly just as fast as you can go. This first corner here is quite tricky because the car always seems to run wide with me. If you can get it any closer to the start line, then that's good. As into the inside line, but ideally clip the apex on the inside and let your car swing out wide, just so that you can, you're not losing too much momentum, too much speed. Originally here, again, clipping the apex nicely there. Go up the hill. Again, this is a short stage. Go right over the hill, don't try not to lose too much speed. Apply the brakes before you hit the tarmac. And then just follow the tarmac and literally just follow it all the way down and you get to the end. Now I'd definitely say go as far as a novice time or newbie time, new player time for this, sub 1 minute, under 1 minute, definitely. Same with stage 3 on Finland in part 1. Get under a minute, that's good. Anything over a minute I'd be a bit concerned. And as you can see, we're just short of 5 minutes on my time, but obviously it'll be different for everybody else. Stage 4, the repeat of stage 1, which has that same cut. The same cut that we used in stage 1 we're going to use again in stage 4. So as mentioned, we're going to be using the reverse shortcut, and it's an interesting shortcut because we've got the go over the hill over this side here. You want to be careful when you clip the bush or the outside, the outskirt of the trees. Got across here. Now at that point, my split's gone red. Don't worry about it. It's no big deal. We're just fine. No need to worry. No need to panic. So we'll get it all back on the next split, and then from this, it's literally a case of just following the stage round for the rest of the stage. Fairly self-explanatory with this one, just as fast as you can get it to go. Again, keeping in mind that you don't want to be running out too wide and clipping these little curb things here, because they can lose you time, and they can also cause your car to be facing a completely different direction for no apparent reason, because game physics and all that stuff. But just like I said, just be careful. Don't hit those corners. Just make sure you're keeping within the tracks. So where my car is at the moment, and you've got the track in the middle of the road. That's what you want to be trying to stick to. Don't try and go outside of it for any particular reason other than maybe the cut. And then from here you just want to accelerate all the way down here. And after these little jumps here, after you go down here, you want to put your brakes on there. And then that allows you to have a little bit of speed. So go down to like 2nd or 3rd gear there before you hit the tarmac. That way you won't be hitting it at 120 miles an hour. And you'll just go sliding off the tarmac. Again, change down a few gears to go around this corner. Jump back on the gas and round the last corner and across the line for 2:05.62, which isn't too bad. Which, like I said, for me, 2:05 not too bad. You can get around the early 2-minute mark originally. Again, same with stage 1, 2:20. I'd say would be an ideal time to go for with cuts. If not with cuts, then a 2:25 roughly. Anything over that, again, it'll be definitely an improvement job. You know, try and improve and get ahead of the AI. And that leaves us with one last stage to do, which doesn't have any shortcuts. And the only trick I believe you can use, so we don't change any of the settings or anything. Again, repair the car if you feel you need to, but I personally don't. I don't think there's, as it stands currently, there's no difference between which side you start on for these of this rally. And ideally what you want to be doing is clipping the bridge at the top, because what happens there is as you clip it at the top, you're actually not losing, you don't lose too much speed, which obviously what you're after, you don't want to be losing too much. So if you do, then what can happen is you lose too much speed, you're losing time. It's as simple as that. You lose speed, time's being wasted. As you have to kind of like thread the needle. Be very careful through those tyre barriers as well. So that's the first half of the stage done. As you go onto this side, if you start on this side, try not to go too fast. Feel free to clip the stone wall. Again, try not to clip it too hard, because otherwise the car, it can roll, it can flip over. Now, as we go over this bridge, again, just you can top the car out, put your foot down, steer only slightly to the right, slightly to the left, nice and easy. After this, straight at the end, it will tell you to jump and go left a little bit. And then, as you get round to this corner, you will need to slow down the car quite a bit, so maybe drop it down a gear or two like I did, down to 3rd or 4th gear. I drop it down a gear here because I don't want to wreck the car too bad. Again, just be very delicate with your car. And then straight on and across the line. And it was a 1:39.2, which isn't too bad. It's nice and easy. That's nice. So, like, really good time to aim for that stage, super special stage, under 140. But for a new player, anything under 150. So roughly anything that's 10 seconds slower than that. If you get like under 150, then that's good. Anything over 150 would probably be a case of get a bit quicker at that stage. That would be an improvement. If you really go, like I said, if you go for the really tough stuff, or you really want to go for world record stuff, a 135, 136 time roughly this stage, and that is Kenya actually done. It's one of the quickest ones, I think, or second quickest actually. But again, as mentioned, quite a quick one, so you know. But ideally, you want to try, if you can, try and get it under 9.5 minutes for Kenya. Anything that's over 9.5 will probably just be a case of improving and trying to get under 9.5. And then world record base is like an early 8-minute time, so like 8:05 or something like that. That's if you really want to aim for that. That's like world record stuff. But for a newbie time, 9.5 minutes. Try and get under 9:30. And obviously we won. And that moves us to the next rally, which is Italy. Now, Italy. This is the other rally I mentioned that's tarmac. Tarmac rallies. We've already done one. We did France. Yes, France was hell, if I can say that. It's not very nice. But Italy, to me, is much worse. I think it's one of the worst rallies in the game, aside from the next one afterwards, which is the UK, but we'll get into that afterwards. But for Rally of Italy, it's again, as mentioned, weather is RNG based, so you want to make sure you're not wrecking the car, make sure you're not doing anything stupid or any of that sort, you know, keeping things civilized. Do yourself a favour. If you're a newbie or you've never played this game before and you're doing this for the first time, do yourself a favour, check the weather. If the weather's raining or it's going to start raining, change your tyres to wet tarmac. But luckily for us, it's dry. If it's dry, it's dry. If it's wet, change it to wet tyres. You get the reason why, because otherwise dry tyres on the wet track, it just doesn't work. It really doesn't work. Anyway, as you can tell, the other thing to mention as well, so obviously if it was wet, you change the tyres to wet, but obviously it's dry, so we're not going to change them. The gearbox, again, needs to go short, again, so we're going to change it down a notch. Not down 2 notches, just the 1 notch. We don't need to change the suspension, the power ratio, or anything like that. And that's the car all set up. Let's get into the stage. So for the most part, there's barely any shortcuts in Italy at all. Mainly stage 4 that has a shortcut, and I think stage 2. So this stage is as fast as you can go. Be careful, use your brakes quite a bit, I would. I'd recommend it as a first time, because these corners are they're very harsh. Very harsh. They're not easy. Like I'm making this look easy right now, but then I played this game God knows how many years. But as a new time player, put your brakes on. You know, don't go too fast, try and ease it into corners and things like that. When you start getting used to the track, again, practice. The problem is you're going to have to do this stage blind before you can practice it. This is the only downside of a game like this. You're going to have to unlock these stages by playing through the championship, so you won't be able to practice them. The only other way I could suggest practicing them would be to use like the unlock all tracks cheat, so you can practice the stages. It's a piece of advice that I could recommend, to be honest, to all those new players out there. I don't know what the cheats are, but I do believe they are available online. If you literally just type in Colin McRae Rally 2 cheats, you can find the cheats for unlocking all of the cars and all of the tracks or stages, which helps in a big way, of course. So as you can see, I'm using my brakes very lightly at the moment. I'm not using them too harshly for what it is. You know, I don't use them completely. I'm obviously just backing off here so that my car doesn't get wrecked, but me at full force would be attacking the stage like crazy, and I mean like really going like full on hammer mode at it. So you want to make sure that corner as well, you want to really slow down for it. Same for this right hand corner, this can throw you off. The hairpin here isn't too bad. Next one is sort of harsh. Not too bad though. Nice easy left hander. This right hander is very tight, so bear in mind you can easily run wide and hit the rock face. And again, just a nice smooth flowing left hander into the finish. And that is stage 1 done. Now stage 1 for Italy for me is a tough start. It's a tough starting stage. Now, I just did a 2:14 there. I can easily go a lot faster. The AI does a 2:40. Ideally for a new player time, 2:30. Anything around the 2:30 mark. So you want to aim between 2:25 and 2:35. Anything outside of those windows, mainly the latter ones, anything outside of 2:35. If you're getting just past 2:35, improve. If you're getting way after 2:35 into 2:40s, definitely improve. If you're into 2:30s, you can slowly, gradually make an improvement. And if you're in 2:25s, that's pretty decent. The times that me and Lucky do, the world record holder, well, world record holders at one point or another, do about a 2:05, I think, or 2:06. So if you're looking for those sort of times, that's what the times you've got to be aiming for. But you've got to be belling, using your brakes, constantly putting your foot down, prevent your car from sliding at all, and things like that. Stage 2, more hairpins, quite a few. Basically, this is like the rally of hell. For me, I've never liked this rally. So you immediately start off with 2 immediate right and left corners, which is followed by another left and right corner. There's quite a few, and it requires complete concentration. So brake use in this rally is essential. It's not like optional. It is essential that you use your brakes. Personally, for me, I always use my brakes because I can't get around these corners without crashing into something sometimes. And the real pros of these stages, the guys that can do it without using the brakes at all, are unbelievably quick. Now, I haven't got to that stage yet, but for me, like I said, I use the brakes like normal, like this. That corner can also throw you off the one that we just had. We've got another hairpin here. There's actually a set of corners towards the latter end of the stage, as you can see. A lot of square left, square right corners. The one that throws people off the most, and where there's a cut, and it saves a few seconds, like I think 3 seconds, maybe 4 seconds, is towards the latter half of this stage. So, going through this town here, make sure you're taking the corners wide. Not too wide, enough to turn in. Beware of that blind corner, because you do have the bus stop on the outside, which is quite bad. And obviously you don't want to be hitting those at all. So you got, again, more square corners. Be careful with the hillside as well. The hillside can easily throw you off. You don't want to be hitting those, trust me. You really don't. Pretty much the rest of it is just keeping an eye on your pace notes and concentrating. Personally for me, concentration in Italy is crucial because it requires 110%. To get this right, you need 110%. Which is why when I usually do a run of this, or I have done a run of this game in the past, I've usually been concentrating 110%. Because it requires quite a bit of knowledge. So the cut for this stage is coming up now. So as we do this hairpin here and we go around it, like this, we cut to the left here and cut behind these trees and back onto the tarmac there. And that actually saves 2 to 3 seconds because it actually cuts out a hairpin. Again, this all depends on how fast you can go. There's quite a few corners towards the end of this stage, especially this left-right, left-right nonsense again, which is very repetitive and it really messes with your brain after a bit. So just be careful. It is like head banging. As we do a 2:45 dead, which is pretty impressive. So 2:45 for me is pretty good, and under 3 minutes I'd say is a really good time. Like my personal best is a 2:36. But I'd say anything around a 3 minute or a 3:10 mark. So 3 minutes to 3:10. If you're in that window for, you know, as a newbie time, that's really good personally in my book. But if you're not, if you're on the latter half, if you're outside 3:10, try and keep it within a 3:20. Anything under 3:20 then. But still try and keep improving so you're in that window between 3 minute, 3:10. And then once you start getting more confident, try and dip below 3 minutes, 3:50. And eventually, if you get enough confidence, you get really good at it, under 240. Like I said, world record's like 236, so there was quite a bit of grinding, quite a bit of practice, as you would imagine, for that. And as you see, we're already a minute and 20 up on the competition, so not too bad. Again, for the sake of this run, I'm going to check the weather. As you can see, it's sunny to cloudy, and the second stage, stage 4, it's cloudy to raining. For the sake of things, I'm going to keep the dry tyres on because the stage 4 water, the rain, is only going to come towards the end of stage 3, start stage 4, I think, or halfway through stage 4. So, without further ado, I'm not going to repair brake. If you need to repair the brakes, for the sake of things, I'm going to do that. And also steering, because those are what are mainly important. If you wish to, maybe repair the suspension. Other than that, I don't see anything else worth repairing. Obviously, if you've damaged the gearbox and the turbo, repair the gearbox and the turbo. Again, tyres, I'm not going to change. The gearbox, we keep everything the same pretty much. If you want to, like in this case, I'm not going to change tyres despite the weather telling me it's going to be raining later, so I've got confidence with the dry tyres. But if you want to change to wet tyres so you'll know you'll be safe, feel free to do that. Anyway, moving into stage 3. Stage 3 is actually a bit of a pain because there is one particular corner which I'm going to show, it's part of the stage, that is very much a pain. So these corners at the start of stage 3 are very tight, and believe me, it's quite a lot of left right nonsense. This corner's blind here, you've got this one here. So coming up right now towards the end of split 1 here, so you've got this here, and then there's also this sharp left right there, which is very tricky because what happens is, believe it or not, I've tried taking that corner flat, and it's very difficult. As you noticed, a lot of the corners are sharp or hairpins or blend into one another extremely quickly. So speed is definitely not key here, hence why the short gearbox comes in handy. Gives us more acceleration, gives us more time to get into the groove of things and allow us to go around the corners better. And obviously into the latter half of stage 3, I mean we're only getting into like the middle half, as you can see. I'm slowly dipping my wheel into corners and things like that. Applying brakes well before I have the chance to do, get the corner, get around the corner. As we've got this hairpin right there, and again, most of this is all about concentrating. So trying to get as fast as you can around the corners. Again, slowing down where I need to. Again, second gear there. Really tight hairpin here. Another left right, another hairpin. You see what I mean when I say it's like full of hairpins and it's like a hellish rally to try and do. Don't forget as well to use the handbrake. I forgot to mention that. You do have a handbrake. It can come in useful for those extra tight corners. I'm not saying you should always use your handbrake, but it can come in useful for if you decide that you don't want to use your brakes. Unfortunately, what I've done there is I've just damaged the car, which I don't want to be doing. Again, I'm trying to play it safe, but these accidents can happen. If you get your car damaged, don't worry too much. If your car's already damaged, don't worry. What I'd recommend is do a couple of tries with damage on the car. Once you get used to it, see if you can still go quite quickly. Because personally for me, I get used to the fact of having a damaged car. Like flinging it into a corner, wrecking the side lights or the wing mirror or something like that. You get what I mean? Doing that sort of stuff. That's how I've pretty much gotten faster. I've learned to deal with damage like the easiest way and not get thrown off by it. So as you can see, going around these last few corners here, another sharp corner. Stage 3, like I say, is a pain because of how many corners it's actually got. A lot of them, like I said, are hairpins, a lot of them are short. As we do a 2:45 going across the line. Now, world record pace is sub 2:40 if you can get it, but like an early 2:40 is also a good time as well. As a newbie time, sub 3 minutes, again sub 3 minutes. If you wish, sub 3:10. Anything over that, definitely try and practice and get him into the 3:10s. Anything under 3:10, sorry. And then obviously work your way up from there. For me personally, that was a pretty decent run. That could be decent for world record. It's not nowhere near as fast as I'd like it to have been, because obviously I was slow around the corners and looking after the car. But when I'm going at full force, there's no stopping me. I can get like early 240s and even like an early late 230. So, so you see what I mean with that one. That is stage 3 done. Now move on to stage 4. Occasionally you get these graphical glitches like this. This is nothing, no need to worry, as these disappear when you start. As you can see, we're already treated to a nice little hairpin there. Most of this stage is mainly just hairpins and a couple of sharp turns. Again, like stage 3. However, there's a bit more chance to accelerate, I'd say. This hairpin you can actually take in 3rd gear, like I did there. If you've got the normal gearbox, then 2nd gear definitely, but the short gearbox, definitely 3rd gear. Again, with the hairpins here, you've got mainly just changing it down to 2nd gear. Avoid the ditch on the left hand side there, because otherwise that's going to lose you more time. So you don't want to be going off into the distance, as we get some lovely rain physics entertaining for us. You know, joining us on track, on stage. Now, there are several cuts to be done in this stage, one of which is coming up very soon, and it's only minor. But basically the game tells you to go around the corner and you say no. So as we go through here, be very careful as well of the rock face. The rock face on the left hand side is awful. Now you can either cut through here or cut around near the tree. The choice is completely up to you what you want to do. It's this hairpin here. This is where the cut comes in. You literally just cut there and get back on the track. Trying to stay as close as you can. The major cut though is this one. You go right up this hill here. Be careful you don't lose too much speed, and jump back on the tarmac out on the other side. Go around the corner, fling right ahead on the grass behind those rocks. After these rocks, turn right off the road, down the hill, back up the other side. And that has saved you about 5 seconds in total on the stage time. Again, bear in mind that it is raining here, so my stage time isn't going to be nearly as good as it should be. There is still hairpins and things like that, quite a few in this one. Especially that last corner, that could easily throw you off if you're unlucky. The hairpin here coming up, not too bad. There is one that is a bit of a pain. I think we've already gone past that actually. I believe, for the most part. Like I said, most of these are just hairpins, so there's no need to worry about anything like this at all. And most of this, believe it or not, most of this stage is kind of like a reverse of the start of the stage. So you're going around hairpins with like stone barriers and stuff like that. I'm not saying it is the same stage. You can go off the stage there, like I do. So be careful with what you've got. And then from there, literally from there, you can literally go around a few corners and across the line like that. Nice and easy. And as you can see, my times are 250 and the AI did 342. So I'd say 315 to 312. That's the sort of time you want to be aiming for this stage as like a new player to the series and first time running this game. Overall time is a 10:35. It can easily be done, like I can easily do it in under 9 minutes, I think. Under 10 minutes. You know, early 10 minutes maybe. It is possible. It can be done. Yeah, we've got a couple of other things going on. So ideally you want to try and get under 11 minutes, but for a new player, under 12 minutes. Personally for me, under 11 minutes is getting back, is decent at the game, like quite decent. New player, try and get under 12 minutes or 13 minutes at a push. As I see, I just had Akumi join my chat, so hello Akumi, welcome. So that is Italy done and dusted, as we move on to the next rally, which is the UK. Now, the UK, again, I will be very brief on this. The UK is the final point at which point RNG can really stuff you up. Now, again, I mentioned it, Finland, it can be RNG based, it can really screw you over. You can get it in Italy, and the most notable, the hardest one to get good RNG in is, of course, the UK. Now, for this run, it's going to be raining, of course it would be. It can be raining, but what I recommend is, before you think about changing tyres and all that good stuff, don't bother. Instead, what I'd recommend you do is you change the tyres depending on the weather. So right now it's raining. If it's raining like it is now for stage 1, change the tyres to wet. If it's going to be raining on stage 2, change the tyres to wet. Leave the tyres. Once you change those tyres, do not change them again. Make one change per rally, I'd say. If you're going to change the tyres, change them once. So if it goes dry, leave them. Just leave it. You know, don't bother changing it. In this case, I'm going to change the tyres to wet. It's going to go dry later on, but I'm not bothered. Wet's kind of got a bit of grip as well. So as you can see, it's set by default to dry tyres. We're going to change that to mud. And we're also going to change the gearbox down to 1 notch down to short, because that actually allows for better acceleration on the mud. And this one is kind of blink and you'll miss it, I'd say, but I'm going to go super slow so you guys can see where the cuts are that we do. There's one very minor one just before the start of sector 2, which isn't very far away. So as you can see, be very careful off the side here. As you can see, there is the drop down to the left hand side. So as you can see on the right here, there's this tree here, and you want to go up there, try and bounce off the forward side and go either to the right or the left hand side of that tree that I narrowly avoided. And then from here, you want to literally follow this mud trail all the way around as best as you can, as best as possible. You know, don't do anything daft, just try and keep it as is. Just follow it all the way around, as I said. Then you want to go straight here and curve left behind these trees here. Make this slight cut for these trees. Again, slowing down between that. You want to also apply your brakes before you hit that jump, so you can get enough speed to get around the corner. Now the next one is a major cut that I think it was Franzowski found, or Zovkov found, who's also in the CMR community. So you really have to slow it down, but thread the needle through that forward thing and head straight here. You want to have enough speed to jump those hay bales there. Now bear in mind as well, and you want to head this way as well. Bear in mind, when you do that jump and you hit that sign, make sure you've got brakes and you slam the brakes on when you're in mid-air. Don't hit the brakes before you go over the jump, because you won't have enough speed and you won't make it. So you want to go straight, flat out, off you go, and you'll get there. And then that's that. You'll get over it, and if you hit it with too much speed, as we just made this minor cut behind here, you hit it with too much speed, the car can flip over, and that's time lost because it resets you. From here, we literally go forward track again round after that minor cut there. And the next and final cut of this stage is you head left here and behind these trees through the hay bales. Again, this is one cut that's definitely worth practicing, as it can save quite a couple of seconds. I believe there's also a cut that you can make at the end here, but I wouldn't risk it. Personally, keep it safe, don't risk it, just leave it as is. Oh, before I skip everything. So I got a 215 on that stage. Ideally, you want to try and aim for a 230 or a 240 with the cuts. As you can see, the AI is exceedingly slow, so you're probably going to win this stage no matter how bad your driving is. Just saying, with these cuts, you'll easily be able to win the stage every time you do it, no matter what weather you get or how bad your driving is if you mess up the skips. If you do mess up the one where you jump over the hay bales, bear in mind you will get reset onto the track, and you will have to follow the track around, so you will lose time there. It's about a 5 or 10 second time loss if you mess that skip, just be aware of that. And also the one where you cut through, cutting through the main thing, which I'll show you now actually. So if I show you on the replay cam, actually that's the perfect example. So again, this was where this minor cut is as well, and notice how much I slow down here. So it's between that hay bale and that fence, and you want to thread the needle. If you want to take it dead slow, feel free to take it dead slow, but you don't want to go too slow. If you do hit the hay bale, just reverse and get in there. Also, you want to hit the back end of the car. That's how, for me personally, I believe that stops the car from completely flipping. Obviously, you want to have your brakes on and all that at the same time, so that the car doesn't just whack it at 100 miles an hour and it flips over, if you get what I mean. So that's that one. and let's move on to stage 2. So stage 2 is a quick stage. It's 1 minute and 30 seconds. And there's actually a few minor cuts for this stage, which I'm going to show off right now. So for the most part, you're going to be following this stage all the way around, nice and easy. Just follow the stage, nothing to worry about yet, you've got nothing to think about, you don't have to worry about, oh, what if I don't make this cut, what if I don't make that cut? Don't worry about it, you'll be completely fine. But bear in mind, this left hand corner with the tree, go too wide, you'll hit that metal pole sticking out the ground, and you don't want to do that. Trust me. Now again, with tarmac, it's very difficult with the wet, so bear in mind, practice will make perfect with this stage. As you go over that curve, I personally can take this corner flat out pretty much. And obviously be sure to brake extra early before going onto this mud over here. Again, you can slide wide. If it rains, you will be sliding wide, so bear that in mind and be aware. So maybe don't go as fast through some corners. If it starts to rain, try not to take so much speed through the corners. After this split here, I usually cut through these trees down here. Not these ones right here, because that's not the ones, but cuts the ones a bit further back. You can also do this cut here, so go straight through the split there, and move a bit to the left, and you can actually beeline past the fence. Basically acts as a straight line for you there. And then across the line we go, and we did a 130.75, which isn't too bad. If you get on 130, that's pretty decent. Actually, really good. You can get under a 130. But an average time, 140, 145, if you're a new player to the game, and if you're new to speedrunning it. Which moves us on to stage 3 and 4. Now, stage 3 is quite a long one, and stage 4 is stage 1 that's in reverse, which means we're going to be using some of the cuts that we used in stage 1. Not all, just some. And there's also some new ones that are going to be shown. Stage 3 doesn't really have many cuts. Also, it's recommended that if you take quite a bit of damage through using those cuts, which you can do, I have at one point, took quite a bit of damage doing the cuts for stage 1. Not so much for stage 2, just stage 1, because that's the one that mainly is there. But again, as mentioned, it's there and it stays there usually, quite a while, the damage. So ideally, if you can, repair the car. If you want to, you don't have to, but I do recommend that maybe take this time to repair the car if you wish. If you don't, it makes the run quicker because you're not repairing the car. So I've still got a tail light. So we set off to do stage 3. Now for the most part, this is a couple of square rights, a few square lefts. We get a tarmac part at one point. There is like little minor cuts here and there, and I'll explain as we go. But for the most part, you just follow the stage and just do what Nicky Riss tells you to do. Nothing too interesting about this stage really, apart from the fact that, to mention, fun little fact is that this stage was actually used, it was replicated in Colin McRae Rally 04, I believe. Literally the same stage, with a few like minor tweaks, and the ending was in a different place, but the stage was mainly the same. As you can see, I'm trying not to let the car slide too wide. It is easily possible to smash the car up due to all the trees, so just be cautious as you're going around this. If you want to take some of the corners flat out, feel free to do so. You can see it's starting to get darker, and this is obviously not what we're after. We're trying to go for this as much as we can, and see how far we can go with this one. And as we go over to left hand side here, back onto the tarmac, this is one of the one of the only shortcuts here. So we cut through here like that, cut through those little concrete bollards, and that actually saves you like a second. About half a second actually. There's this sharp right here. It's not so sharp really, but definitely try and brake way in advance. Brake as well and slow the car down before that left corner as it comes up. Obviously the hairpin here, again, be very careful. You don't want to be doing anything too stupid. Don't take that corner on the right too quick either, because otherwise you can hit the black and white bollards. And they are concrete, I believe, so if you hit one, you're going to stop completely and wreck your engine at the same time, obviously, as you'd agree. Not what we want to be doing. This roundabout can actually throw a few people off, but you will have to go right round it and come off at the third exit from where you went on. That's how it works. And then from here, we'll just follow the rest of the stage round. There's not a lot to mention other than following the stage. For the most part, just follow the stage. Back onto the mud on the right hand side over here. Be careful of the trees as you go around. Slowing down where you need to, putting your gas down where you need to. And then you have these two hairpins here. Again, second gear usually works for me personally. And across the line to do 2:49.45. And as you can see, 2:49.45 for us, not too bad. Personally, I'll take that. It's not too bad, especially considering it's like a bit of a racky run. You see the AI did it at 3:35, so I'd say for a new player, getting in the 3:10s, 3:10 and below, so anything under 3 minutes 10 seconds is a good time to get as a new player. Anything over 3:10 is quite bad, so 3:15, 3:20 is quite bad, and definitely would improve on. And that brings us nicely onto stage 4, which is basically stage 1 in reverse, and we can actually use some of the cuts we used in stage 1, but in reverse. So immediately we start off and we go to the right hand side here, go around this hairpin here, and we cut to the right, off to the right here, past these hay bales again, like we did originally, came through stage 1. Going through into this next sector here, I actually do a bit of a cheeky dive off here, so I go over here onto the tarmac and cut in now and cut down to the right down here. This actually allows you to just take gain as much speed as you can, go as quick as possible. Again, staying on track for this bit here as well. Again, there's no major skips here, we've got like all the major ones so far. Again, follow the track here, go around this hairpin, but then after you cross this tarmac and this tree, you can cut behind this tree here and this one, and this actually puts you, if you're far to the left anyway, puts you back on the track and skips quite a bit of the track for you. So we basically skip like 20 seconds, I think, 10-15 seconds actually. And for the rest of it, we just follow the tarmac around, obviously following the stage. Fairly simple on this one. Again, slow down quite a fair bit before that hairpin. Go across the tarmac, cut down and through between these two trees here, and go straight here. Recommend going around the left hand side of those trees, but if not, go around the right hand side. After this split here, you want to go straight over this grass verge and steer to the left as you go over, because what happens is by doing that, you're basically lining yourself up for getting back on track and everything like that. And then what we want to be doing here is cutting between these two trees. If you want to, you can cut behind the forward poster, which is on the left hand side. Again, use your brakes here because you can easily go down the hill into the water, and then you literally from there flat out all the way to the end of the stage, and it is a 2:04.97 for us. Now I can get that down to a low 2 minute time, if not under 2 minutes, if I pull off them, pull off the cuts right and things like that. But for a new player, easily get like 2.5, 2:30, 2:40 would be an ideal time, because the AI, you'll beat the AI pretty much every time with those cuts. Again, like I said, most of them are the same at stage 1. You can't do the jumping over the hay bales though, you can't do that. And there's also that going up the grass verge, which you don't do in stage 1. And that's it. We're not finished with this though, and there's the one last stage, which is of course the super special stage, which is fairly easy. You mainly do a couple of taps and things like that. I'll mention these as we go. Again, I'm not going to repair the car, even though it does need repairing slightly. And we're going to go to the final stage. This is it. So usually your time will still be running at this point, obviously, and the run will end as soon as you cross the line. But for the most part, tap of the brakes, keep your steering inputs nice and simple. Try not to get too close to the tyre barriers on the right hand side there. As you go across this bridge over here, slow down. change down a gear or two, and then try and cut as close as you can to the trees. Make sure to either cut down a gear when you cross the water there, or the game will instantly cut it down for you. If you can, try and get the car to smash off the barrier. Now we're going to wall ride all the way around this corner here and try and come off as soon as you can, because otherwise the more you cling onto the barrier, the worse it gets. Again, keeping the speed, slowing it right down to the second or third gear, as we've changed up one gear too many there. Under the bridge, again, you will brakes applied here. If you can, let the car swing out, tap that there. Try and get extremely close to the tree on the right and the wall on the left. For here, you can either do a whack off the wall, like the very inch, the inch of the corner, or you can decide that you can just do it the easy way. Personally, the easiest and the quickest route is to just literally go all the way around and smack into the corners and across the line. As I accidentally hit the tyre barrier on the line, and this is where the time would have stopped. So as soon as I crossed the line, then my time would have stopped, and I would have had my final time. And then that's the run complete. And that is overall Colin McRae Rally 2 any percent. Just to quickly mention about the last stage before finishing everything off. That was a 1:29.71. The best times are like under 1:30. The AI does, as you can see, a 1:55 to 1:58 roughly, usually. So if you get like under 1:45, under 1:40 as a newbie sort of time, that's a good time to get. And you're well on the way to improving. Try and get under 1:40 though, because 1:45 is a bit sluggish. 1:40 is a bit more of a decent time in my book, so obviously try and get under 1:40. If you can't get near 1:40, try and get under 1:45. Anything that's anything that's over 1:45, try and improve. And like I said, do the minor improvement to get under 1:40. If you're getting in the 1:45s or just below, like just after 1:40 but below 1:45, you get what I mean. Overall time is 10 minutes 10, which is pretty good. Ideally try and get under 12 minutes with all the cuts, if you can. If not, 12.5 minutes. I won't stretch any further than that. Again, this is all being shot on the PC, so it's obviously going to be a lot more different compared to the rest. And yeah, that is everything. I think I've covered everything. Obviously we get the gold trophy because we've won, and you get the message saying that you've won the gold trophy. Obviously your time doesn't need to be going at this point. And if you're on PC, you get treated to a screen like this, which flashes and then fireworks go off. But if you're on the PS1 version, or if you've got an old version of Windows and be able to run this game like on Windows XP, you can actually see the proper ending, which has the car go down across there, gets down to the end, stops, and then the fireworks go up so you can see what's going on. And that is the Novice Championship, all complete. So just to mention as well is that with the stages that I've mentioned, as I'm just going to quickly show the trophies, as mentioned, this game, I'm currently running this on the PC. This is the faster version of the game to run. If you do want to run it on PlayStation 1, just be aware that there is really crappy, awful loading times. I mean awful, they are just terrible. But yeah, and on that note, I am going to say that is the run. But again, feel free to leave your guys' thoughts and opinions in the comments. And obviously to my Twitch chat that's been watching, that's been tuning in for this, thank you very much. But again, this will probably be on my Twitch as well. So to anyone that's watching this for a run, let me know how you get on with it, see if you find it helpful. If not, I do apologise, I've tried my best. But yeah, that is everything. So thank you very much for watching, and see you later.